What's going on, guys? This is Sean. I am back again, and in this video we are going to be working on Daredevil. This is like a original design, but it's based off of the Netflix version, but not quite. I wanted to throw my own little twist to it, so why don't we just jump right into it. So in order to get some of this facial features, I went and used some craft foam, some scrap paper, some masking tape, and all kinds of stuff, and just cut it into the shape that I kind of wanted it to look like. And then I just put it on there with some masking tape, and then once I get the bare skeleton of what I want it to look like, I went ahead and fastened everything down. It doesn't look like much now. As a matter of fact, that actually looks kind of crappy, but once I get some of this high-tech template maker glued on there, and I'm using repositioning spray adhesive, that way I can reposition it if I need to, and it makes it easier for it to come off. And as for the high-tech template maker, it's actually grocery bags for those of you guys that are new to this channel and you're wondering what is this high-tech stuff that he's using and where can I get it from. Well, you can actually get it from the grocery store. Most places give it to you for free if you buy stuff from them. Now I'm using high-tech duct tape, but regular duct tape will work. It doesn't actually say high-tech on there. It's just high-tech whenever I use it. Now I'm going in there and I am taping everything down, and then I'm going to go through and mark out all the lines of where I think I need to make my cuts. And now that it's one uniform gray color, it's starting to look a little bit better than it did a while ago. I'm also going in there and drawing in all my lines for where I'm going to do some undercuts, or in my case, I'm going to make some underburn, because I'm going to use a wood burner to burn these lines. Because sometimes when you're using a razor blade and you're trying to do undercuts, it's kind of hard not to go all the way through, especially when you're using 5mm craft foam. And I always use 5mm craft foam for all my helmet builds, just because it's a little bit thinner and it's easier to work with, and it's a lot easier to find. Now I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and I'm going to carefully trim off all the excess material, stuff that I don't want, and maybe clean out ED's eye here so you can see better. And so far so groovy, and I think this is what my template is going to look like. Normally I would take the duct tape template and use some spray adhesive and stick it onto some poster board, but now I am just scanning the duct tape template, and then I'm sketching it all out on Adobe Illustrator and cleaning out all these lines, making sure everything is nice and straight. And also increased it by 2%, maybe 3%, just so that it'll slip on Edie's head a little bit better. And my head is slightly bigger than him because I have fat cheeks. So now that I have all my templates transferred over to my craft foam, it's time to make all my cuts. And then after I do all my cuts, and I'll take my paper template and then cut out the inner patterns. This will be some accents that's going to go onto the side of the head. I am just tracing it on there, that way I know where to apply the glue on both sides and make sure that it's even instead of eyeballing it and guesstimating. Yeah, I do that a lot, and sometimes it looks crooked. Maybe not right when I do it, but 2 days later and it's already too late. And as for angle cuts, there's really isn't any angle cuts on these larger pieces, except for maybe the forehead area and the nose. This part right here is the earpiece. I tried making some angle cuts and it came out looking deformed, but I ended up making the angle cuts on these smaller pieces. That way it marry better to the earpiece. And every time I do these weird angle cuts, I try not to stop too much whenever I'm using my blade, or at least try not to lift it up. That way I'll get a smoother edge line or something like that. Now I'm going to use my wood burner and I'm going to underburn some lines. This is going to help the helmet take its form a little bit better. And you can actually use a razor blade, but if you're using a razor blade, you may compromise the integrity of the foam right where the undercuts are. So I recommend getting a wood burner because I use it in almost all my builds. And I'm actually going to list that item in my Amazon store, so make sure you go to the link in the description down below. You can get all your cosplay supplies and tools and whatever. I'm gonna take this earpiece part right here and I'm gonna fold it in half just like this so I can get contact cement down into the nooks and crannies, and I'm gonna glue all the edges where everything contacts each other. Now that my contact cement is dry to attack, it's time to attach all the pieces. I'm gonna start with the top of the head, the center dome. I'm having a difficult time making these contact cement contact each other, and that's because I let it sit out for way too long, and that's kind of what happens. But you push hard enough, it'll stick to each other. In some cases, they'll stick too soon, like this piece right here. And you gotta be really careful when you stick these little weird angle cuts. And I don't know why I did it, but it looked kind of cool at the end, so why not, right? I just went with it. And another trick I usually do when these contact cements don't want to stick because you left it out way too long, I'll apply some heat and it'll soften up the glue just a bit so you can stick everything together without having to reapply contact cement. Sometimes when you reapply too much contact cement, you'll have this spider webby looking pile of goo in your seam, and it doesn't look that cool. So yeah, something to think about, I guess. Alright, so now I pretty much got the ear pieces to the side pieces and it's looking pretty nifty. I'm going to attach the inner earpiece to the center top dome area. I did cut this edge right here in an angle cut, which is actually an outward angle cut, and married it to the center headpiece, but that's probably the only angle cut I did on the inner earpiece. Now, as for the top edge, I did apply some contact cement to the inner surface, if that makes any sense, because I'm just going to glue it to the inner surface of the side pieces. Now, when I glue this part together, this is like the forehead right here, I actually cut both those in inward angle cuts, that way I can get a more beveled look right there on the edge. Once I get that piece married together, it's time to marry the inner earpieces together. Now, as for this one right here, I just kind of glued the surfaces together, and then I'm going to go back and sand it down with a Dremel tool just to smoothen it out and fill it in with some caulking. And as for the back of the head, it's kind of just glued to the edges together like that. I'm going to carefully make sure that all my seams are lined up nice and neatly, but I am going to keep it two-tone just like this, so even if it doesn't come out all nice and straight, I'm just going to paint it two different colors and you're never going to even notice a crooked seam line. But so it's good practice to make sure all your seams are nice and nifty. I am struggling a little bit with the inner earpiece, but that's because I left the glue out way too long. And eventually, just pushing on to it, it's stuck to each other. And I'm going to fill in this little area right here with some caulking anyways. So, you know, you're not even going to notice it. But you might if you look hard enough. And if you do, it's going to be like, it's just cosplay, brah. Move along. Now I'm going to plug up the front of the horns with some scrap foam right here. And starting to come together pretty nicely. You're probably thinking, well, Sean, you could probably done better than that. That looks pretty funky. Well, I'm just gonna trim it down with some scissors, and then I'm gonna hit it a couple times with a Dremel tool. And I'm even gonna clean out the edges over here a little bit before I put some caulking or some seal or whatever you want to call it. Now, you want to be careful when using a Dremel tool that you don't accidentally go crazy with it and cut something up that you didn't mean to cut and sand. But what I do is I'll just start all over. But if I don't have that patient, then I'll just scar it up some more and say, hey, you know what, I meant to do it, because it is a helmet that belongs to a crime fighter who fights crime in the streets, so you don't expect it to be all mint all the time. And he is blind, so he might have walked into a wall or a blender or a lawnmower. I don't know. Well, alrighty tighty, and this helmet is coming along pretty nicely. It's time to apply some contact cement to the side so I can add some accents. This will set it off, kinda. I mean, I think it looked pretty cool plain, but I think it's gonna look a lot cooler with some accents on the side. I'm gonna carefully align it to the lines that I drew earlier, and then I'm gonna apply some heat to the foam so that way the accents will form better to the helmet. Now this helmet was actually kind of tight on my head, so I did eventually go back and form it a little bit wider, but I'll show you here in a little bit. Now I went in and took some quick seal and apply a bead of caulking to the seams. That way it'll give it a cleaner look. It also helps if you had wet fingers, so you can get a cleaner, smoother result. Now I'm going to apply some heat on the inside and the outside and try to widen up the top of the head area. That way, you know, my head can breathe when I'm wearing it. Now it's time to set this helmet on my high-tech painting stand. And you're probably wondering where I got this high-tech paint stand. Can't tell you that. You're just going to have to figure that one out on your own. I went and applied some Maji Podgy to seal the foam before I apply some paint. I decided to go with some Flamingo Red, because I like the name, that's why. And it was pretty dark and I thought it looked really cool. It has a pretty cool matte finish, so no bling going on over here, because Daredevil shouldn't be shiny. Well, that's entirely up to you, but I wanted to go with a matte finish for Daredevil. And you could always go back and apply some glossy Mod Podge to make things shiny, but that's up to you. That's what you're into. I'm using a hair dryer to accelerate the drying process because watching paint dry is not that interesting. Then I'm gonna go back and carefully paint all the other areas black with some matte black paint. Now I did just roughly slap some paint on there. That's because I wanted to give it a real dirty look. And I'm eventually gonna go back and weather it and throw some shading on it and do some cooler stuff to it. But as for right now, I think I'm just going to leave it just like this until I get the rest of the armor done, and then I'm just gonna weather everything at the same time. So far so groovy, and I am digging what I'm cooking. I hope you're digging it too, and if you like what I'm doing here, and if you're into this kind of stuff, I mean if you're really into it, then check the links in the description down below and it'll take you to the templates. And your purchases definitely help support my channel. Makes me want to create more stuff. I really want to put out more videos, and been dealing with a lot of family issues at the moment, but I'll be back really strong here in the upcoming week. So if you like what I do here, make sure you hit that like button if you feel like you got something out of this video. And don't forget to swing by my Amazon shop, my Etsy shop, and I'm bringing back the blank kit, so make sure you swing by my eBay too. So yeah, so hit that subscribe button if you're new to this channel. Leave a comment in the comment section below, and follow me on all my social network. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, and I guess that's it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.